What's up guys, Harrison here, and today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite anime movies, Ghost in the Shell, the iconic work of director Mamoru Oshii based on a manga by Masamune Shirow. Now, I know what you're thinking, where's Matt? Well, Matt's not here right now, if you couldn't tell by my much sexier voice. This is a vid that I've been planning for a while, and Senpai was finally nice enough to let me out of my basement to record this. So today, we're going to be analyzing the film, dissecting it on a thematic, philosophical, and screenplay level. And as Ghost in the Shell is perhaps one of the most iconic franchises ever, it's only fitting at the end that we analyze its cultural influence as well. So we begin with Part 1, the Cyberpunk World. Ghost in the Shell is a cyberpunk anime, perhaps the cyberpunk anime, a genre which is defined in large part by its world and setting. Ghost in the Shell introduces us to this world and establishes it immediately, dropping us right into the mind of its protagonist, Major Motoko Kusanagi, seeing the world as represented in her cyber mind. We see the political intrigue which runs this world, untouchable by the regular police forces, but instead having to be resolved by the covert operations of her elite unit, Section 9, setting up the rest of the story. While the world is established, we also learn more about the Major herself. She's skilled, inhumanly so, moving with the grace that can only be granted through the precision of her machine body. She's calm, stoic even, and introspective, a stone in a stormy sea of cyber chatter. She's isolated from the world atop her high perch, mirroring her mental state, which becomes more apparent as the movie progresses. Her unblinking eyes and porcelain skin give her an artificial, almost doll-like quality, reinforcing the fact that she is not entirely human. Then we cut to the title sequence, which details the creation of the Major and her cyber body in stunning detail, set to the backdrop of a haunting Japanese chorus sung in the ancient Japanese language of Yamato, a stark contrast to the high-tech processes being shown. We see her metaphorical birth, which transitions beautifully to her waking up and facing the world. All of this setup leads to Part 2, I Think, Therefore I Am? The antagonist of the story is introduced to us at first only in name as the Puppet Master. We learn that he is an enigmatic cyber terrorist, possibly an American, responsible for several of the greatest cyber crimes in history, but we're not really given a full grasp on how he operates. This has quickly changed after an intense shootout and chase scene as the suspects are being interrogated. The true modus operandi for the Puppet Master is revealed: ghost hacking, erasure of one's memories, and complete control over the human mind without them even suspecting it. The whole time, the Garbage Man and his co-conspirators have been turned unwittingly into human hacking conduits without even knowing what they were doing. Everything that he knew, everything that he loved, be it his wife, his daughter, or even just the past 10 years of his life, have been ripped away from him and crushed by the realization that they never even existed. We as humans define ourselves, our very beings, by the sum of our experiences, but if these experiences prove to be false, then what does this say about us exactly? The man breaks down in tears, all the while as the Major looks on, peering into the interrogation room through a reflection of herself. The Garbage Man's revelation not only devastates him, but rattles her as well. How can she be sure whether or not she's real herself? What if her memories are just as artificial and manufactured as her body is? She constantly sees reflections of herself, and yet doesn't know what she's looking at, doesn't know if she's real. You see, while the plot of Ghost in the Shell is about political intrigue and the case of the Puppet Master, the true focuses of the movie are the existential crisis and philosophical musings of the Major, and it is this interaction between the Major, her psychological state of mind, and the situations around her which drive the story forward, which culminates in Part 3, Apotheosis. An unknown android arrives at Section 9, his body being found partially crushed by a truck on the road. Through examination, it is revealed that this supposedly empty shell has the makings of a ghost and a cyberbrain, the trappings of a soul. After an unexpected activation, the android reveals that it is indeed the Puppet Master, but it also reveals that it's not American, but was never even human to begin with. It is a being which spontaneously arose through the sea of information, through a natural phenomenon known as emergence, where incredibly complex bodies and creations arise from the interaction of many smaller, simpler parts. For example, water molecules form snowflakes, or ants forming colonies, a living, though not breathing, sentient being, which is entirely a consequence of man's computerization and the cyber world. After the Puppet Master was stolen, through a series of events including single-handedly fighting a tank, the Major eventually comes to confront and link with the Puppet Master in an abandoned museum, staring into yet another mirror image of herself, as a rival section hunts them both down. It reveals to the Major that it has sought her on purpose, and offers her a proposition to merge their ghosts to become one, to become an entirely new being, greater than what either of them could be on their own. The Major has her concerns, but the Puppet Master discusses his own philosophical trappings, which the museum setting lends itself to, talking of the need for life to evolve and perpetuate itself, passing on its genetic information and dying, all the while the Tree of Life and the fossils of creatures who have long since failed to evolve adorn the walls in the museum atrium. After finally emerging, the Major achieves apotheosis, ascending to a higher plane of existence. This is seemingly cut short when both her shell and the Puppet Masters are destroyed by Section 6, but then we enter Part 4, A Brave New World. We see what seems to be the Major waking up in an unknown location, staring into her reflection for the last time, echoing several earlier scenes. However, this time, something is different. Something besides the younger looking body. Bato, her comrade from Section 9, reveals that he found another body for her on the black market and brought her to a safe house. After asking her whether or not the puppet master is still there, she reveals that she is no longer either the Major Motoko Kusanagi nor the puppet master, but is instead a whole new being, something beyond what either of them could have been on their own. Echoing the title sequence, she has been reborn, with a younger body to match. But despite looking younger, she is so much more wiser and more powerful than she could have ever hoped to have been before. Now, when she stares into her reflection, she is no longer unsure of herself. After sharing her farewells with Bato, she stares down at the city as she did in the beginning. However, she no longer feels isolated or alone. She muses to herself on where to go, saying that the net is vast and infinite, as the scene pans up to the city, leaving her ready to face a brave new world. Part 5. A Cultural Touchstone. Ghost in the Shell is a cultural touchstone piece, influential in both Japan and the West. It counts amongst its peers other timeless works such as Akira and Cowboy Bebop, which altogether formed a huge wave which helped popularize the medium in the West. Everything from Deus Ex to The Matrix takes inspiration from Masamune Shirow's work, with The Matrix in particular being indebted to Ghost in the Shell. When the Wachowskis pitched the idea of The Matrix, they actually just showed a screening of Ghost in the Shell to the producers and said, "We want to do that for real." Many of the aspects of The Matrix, from the color green representing digital information to plugging in directly to your necks, to even some of the most iconic scenes in The Matrix, are pulled directly from Ghost in the Shell. However, the Wachowskis are not alone in being influenced by Ghost in the Shell. James Cameron, that James Cameron, refers to it as a stunning work of speculative fiction, perhaps the first to reach a level of literary excellence, and used it to inspire the mind transfer aspect of his movie Avatar. Steven Spielberg was influenced by his philosophical influence in his classic film Artificial Intelligence, and drew heavily from his future tech vision in his film Minority Report starring Tom Cruise. Less than coincidentally, Spielberg through DreamWorks has acquired the remake rights to Ghost in the Shell and is currently producing the live-action adaptation starring Scarlett Johansson. Over 20 years since its creation, the franchise still stands strong, with a sequel movie and several spin-off series, and the aforementioned upcoming live-action adaptation. From its beautiful animation to its universal themes of existence and transhumanism, Ghost in the Shell stands the test of time, and is generally agreed upon to be one of the greatest works of anime ever made. Part 6. A Final Review. Now, it would be remiss for me to go through all of that and not actually give it a final review. As I said in the beginning, Ghost in the Shell is my favorite anime movie, perhaps one of my favorite movies, period. However, it isn't perfect, and I know that. Ghost in the Shell is a good movie, great even, but it's not a fun movie per se, meaning that while there are some awesome action scenes in it, it can get pretty heavy-handed with its philosophy and how it delivers it exactly, which can definitely be a turnoff for some people. The voice acting is serviceable, but nothing too special. Some aspects are dated, but the animation is so detailed and beautiful that it still mostly holds up. Overall, it is my favorite movie, but I do acknowledge that it is not perfect and perhaps not for everyone. Either way, if you're an anime fan, I recommend that you at least watch it once to say that you did. If you enjoyed it and are interested in the themes and philosophy of it, some recommended viewings for you anime lovers would be Ghost in the Shell, a standalone complex produced by Production IG, and it's also one of my favorite series and is an amazing reinterpretation of the film. Also recommended would be Psychopaths for you cyberpunk lovers. If you like live action movies, then I would recommend Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, which actually inspired Ghost in the Shell in many ways, and Ex Machina, both great explorations of many of the same themes. If you like video games, then might I recommend Deus Ex, specifically Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, first-person RPGs which explore many of the same themes as Ghost in the Shell and are amazing games to boot. And finally, if you like books, might I recommend Philip K. Dick's classic Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the original source material for Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, and The Ghost and the Machine, a philosophy book from which Ghost in the Shell actually derives its name. Well, I think that's all for today, folks. What'd you think of the video? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to stay tuned for a follow-up vid coming up soon. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This is Harrison. Make sure to stay a man and keep watching that goddamn anime.